Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Smith, and I am the Teacher of the Year nominee for Baldwin Middle Senior High School. I'm here to tell you about my why. I feel like oftentimes teachers in the classroom are more concerned about what their test scores are going to be for their students versus the whole entire student. The most important thing to me is the education of the whole entire student. We're not just looking at where their education is going and what they're learning in our class, which is important, yes, but I'm more concerned about where they're going to be as a person. I feel like it's so important and it's vital for my role as a teacher to teach them to be good people, to make sure that they have an idea of what they're going to do whenever they leave my classroom, to know what they need to know for the real world when they get out there. Because oftentimes people don't have any idea what they're expected to do once they leave the classroom. And these days, these children have so many things that they're coming into contact that I never even had to worry about whenever I was in school, or the, you probably didn't see when you were in school either. Um, and these kids are just having these massive adult problems at children's ages, and it just crushes me. The thing that I care most about is the student. I, of course, think test scores are important because it shows what they're growing, and of course, everybody wants to have massive growth, but if I don't grow a child emotionally or show that child that I love them and that I care about them as a person and not just as a student or a test score, I'm failing. My kids need to know every day that I love them and that I have faith in them and that I can get them to where they need to be. And if they don't have faith in themselves, I have to have enough faith for them. That's my job. My job is to make sure that they know that they are loved and they are cared about and that they can do hard things, because people aren't pushing children anymore and they're just allowing them to pass by and to just continuously get pushed along. And I make sure that all of my students know that they have a high expectation in my class and that they have the expectation that they will and can do work. It's super difficult sometimes because these students don't have faith in themselves. That's where my relationship building comes in. I come in and I build relationships with the students that nobody else is building relationships with. In a video that you're going to see that one of my colleagues sent in, she talks about a particular student who was 18 years old and in the seventh grade. This student had lost his brother. He had gotten into controlled substances and had an abuse problem. He had zero faith in himself. He had no faith in himself, or and his parents didn't either. His parents were kind of at a loss because he had just lost his brother. He had a younger sister that was still trying to deal with the loss of her oldest brother. He was in a terrible place in life. And he came into my classroom thinking that he couldn't do work and he wasn't going to do work and it wasn't going to matter because nobody had cared about him up until this point. Well, it was a very difficult year for both of us. And we learned to trust each other. And I happened to see that student this past week at our homecoming game, and he lit up when he saw me. And this student has graduated probably like 5 or 6 years ago, but he was so excited to see me and tell me where his life had taken him and all the hard things that he had done in his life and all the things that he's accomplishing now that he had left my classroom. And he was so proud of himself and he continued to just thank me. And he gave me at least 5 bear hugs in the amount of time that I was with him. And he was so happy to see me. And he said, the only person that I wanted to see was you. Now, this student is not my only success story. I had another student who had dealt with his mother overdosing his little brother. The student had several anger management issues. As you can imagine, his grandparents were raising him. His grandparents were kind of at a loss at what to do with him because he didn't have any outlet for his anger. The student was just, he resorted to violence. He just had no way of knowing and controlling what was going on in his world. And at the time, I just told him, it's violence is not the answer. It's not going to solve everything. I understand that you're hurting. I understand that you need a safe place and a safe haven. So I worked out with a guidance counselor that he could come to my classroom whenever he had a moment, and he would have no questions asked. So he would just come into my room and he would sit his head down and he would do whatever he needed to do. And then once he was calmed back down, I would write a note and send him back to class. And I'm very fortunate to work at a 6 through 12 school, so I get to see all of these really cool growing moments happen with my students, and I get to see them from middle school and turn into amazing young adults. And this student that had the really bad anger management issues got involved at ROTC at my encouragement, and he excelled. And it was really cool last year whenever he wanted to try to get into the Navy, and he said, "Miss Smith, I really need your help for the ASVAB. Is there any way that you can help me?" And of course, I tutored him. I always want my students to feel like they can come to me for anything that they need. It doesn't matter if they're not in my classroom anymore. I want them to know I am there for them no matter what. And so the student was so excited. He passed the ASVAB. He got to get his ideal dream position in the Navy. And it was just the most amazing thing. I don't know who cried more whenever he graduated, his family or me. Um, but it's just so important to me to make sure that we are taking care of the child as a whole. It's my whole entire why. And I have to be honest, originally I did not get into teaching because I wanted to be a teacher. I got into teaching because it was a great education or career for my kids because I had two young children at the time. And I have grown to love every single minute of it. I hug students all day long because some of the students in my school, they need it. People are not telling them that they love them. People are not telling them that they care about them. They're not asking them how their day is going. I want every child to know that they are loved and that somebody cares about them. And if I'm the only person that tells them that day, then I feel like I've done my job. I'm going to show you some videos that some of my former students sent, and also a coworker. Um, I just really want you guys to know that it's not just about a test score. It's about the child as a whole. And if we are not doing our job and looking out for the entire child, we're failing.
While I never had the privilege of having Miss Smith as my teacher, she greatly impacted my life for the better while being my coach. She always took time out of her busy day to talk with me about my classes, my grades, and was always extremely helpful answering any of my math questions. She influenced my life by the way she carries herself and exemplifies characteristics such as being compassionate, respectful, prepared, and dedicated to hard work. She was always there to be a listening ear, and she let me vent to her any time I needed to. Miss Smith has been a positive role model to many of my peers as a teacher and a coach, which goes to show just how much she cares for her students in and out the classroom each and every day.
Miss Smith has helped and impacted my life in so many different ways. She's an amazing teacher, and she's helped me and many other students have a better understanding of math. She's always been there for me, and she always tells me to try my best. And when I don't try my best, she pushes me. She's always there for me, and she's never let me down. Whenever I need someone to talk to, I can go talk to her about anything. She's helped me through so much, and she's helped me in school and with many other things. She's an amazing role model, and I wouldn't be where I am today without her coming into my life.
My name is Cameron, and I have Miss Smith as my 8th grade algebra teacher. I think one thing about Miss Smith that makes her such a phenomenal teacher is that she cares about each of her students individually, inside and outside of the classroom. She cares about our performance in the classroom as much as she cares about what we're doing outside of the classroom. And I think that carries through in her teaching. I also think that the way Miss Smith teaches, by making sure that we don't just think we're doing algebra, but we're relating it to our real world, in real world examples and projects that we did, helps to elevate her level of teaching and the relatability of it, and it also makes it stick longer. And I think that Miss Smith caring about each of us and making sure that she's tailoring to each of our learning types is extremely important. And I think that she's had an extremely long-lasting impact because not only does she do all of this, but she continually goes above and beyond for her students inside and outside of the classroom. And she also helped me personally have a deeper level of understanding and love for my education. She helped me see why what we were learning in her classroom and inside of my other classrooms were so important, and in what ways I was going to use it in my real everyday life outside of school. And I think that the thing that stuck with me the most about Miss Smith was the fact that even when you didn't understand what you were doing or you didn't want to be doing it, she always made sure that you understood the importance of it. And if nothing else, that we were going to understand it before we left her classroom that day. She continually bends over backwards for each of her students. And I think that that is just one of the few things that makes Miss Smith such a special teacher.
Hello, my name is Miss Larkins, and I am here to tell you about Lauren Smith. Lauren is an amazingly awesome teacher here at Baldwin Middle Senior High School. I met Lauren a few years ago when it was my second year as being a dean, and she came in mid-year. And any teacher that comes in mid-year, it is a challenge. This particular group of students have been without a teacher for a while. They hired teachers would quit. And then we would get subs, and subs wouldn't want to come back. And then the heavens opened up, and here was Lauren Smith. She came in there, she was ready for the challenge. And it was a challenge. These students brought out the best of her, and she brought out the best in them that year. And some of them still seek her out to this day and are so thankful that she did not give up on them and that she pushed them to be the best versions of themselves inside the classroom and outside the classroom. And that's what she does for us as well as teachers. She has been our department head for the past 3 or 4 years, and she pushes us. She pushes us to be our very best. And if we didn't have the scores that we want, or students doesn't seem like they're grasping the information, she comes in. She comes into the classroom. She looks at what's going on. She'll give you advice. She gives you the knowledge that you need to take your teaching to the next level. This is Lauren Smith. She's a phenomenal person. She's a phenomenal teacher. She's a phenomenal mother, and she's a phenomenal friend. And I am glad that she has been nominated as Teacher of the Year.